You are listening to Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.
Hey everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Digging In Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Kelly, helping you get those questions answered to and through retirement. Today I am joined by one of the best financial advisors in the business. He's always making it happen and making it rain, Mr. Joey Bags Mateja.
You're too kind, Kinch. Too kind. Happy to be here.
How's it going, man?
Going good. A lot's happened since we last spoke, which I think is I'm setting you up to kind of intro what we're going to chat about today.
Oh boy, a lot has happened.
Yeah, a lot has happened.
Oh no, do you have an announcement to make on the podcast?
I do.
Oh
I do.
Boy.
Yeah. So
You won the lottery.
I did not. Well, I did. I won life's lottery. So my wife Sarah and I are expecting our second child. Baby Emma is going to introduce herself to the world, if everything goes as planned, probably late January.
There we go. Well, congrats,
thrilled.
man.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
I know you've been super excited. I've
Oh, yeah.
seen Sarah in the office. She's glowing. Avery's excited to be a big sister.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that. Yeah, Avery's thrilled.
And you've been busy painting a nursery.
Painting a nursery, putting up baseboards, moving fish tanks out of said new nursery.
Hey, those fish tanks have been through a lot. They made a move.
They did. Yes.
In the back of a pickup truck.
Oh, my goodness.
Those fish have been through a lot.
They've been through a lot. They're all still with us, so we're doing something right.
Hey, there you go. So that brings up an interesting point. I mean, you've shared personal news on here before, but that seems like a bit of a curveball for life, right?
It absolutely was a curveball. So here's the backstory in 10 seconds or less. Avery's about to turn 6. She was born. We wanted a second child. Tried a number of different avenues to make that happen over a period of 3.5 years. Nothing worked. So we just had, just come to the conclusion and accepted that we were only going to have one. And that was okay. So when we found out, we were thrilled, but a little also, surprised. Curveball. Life throws a curveball. What's interesting is, we had maybe 2 years ago, Kinch, gotten rid of all of the baby stuff from Avery. The high chair, the bouncy chair,
It's just taking up
playpens.
room.
Yeah.
You're never going to need it again.
So we either donated it, we gifted it, or we sold it, thinking, well, we've got Avery and that's it. And here we are. Right?
Here we go.
Feeling a little unprepared, on our heels a little bit. But I think that's kind of where you're going with this, right?
Yeah. I think that draws a great parallel to what you do, right? Like I've seen you meet with hundreds of people at this point, right? And sometimes they come in and everything's going smooth and this is our path for retirement. And hey, we're set to retire in a matter of weeks or days. And then there's that phone call. Hey, I got to talk to Joe. Something happened.
Yep.
And there's a multitude of reasons why somebody would call in, right? Unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of them happen to be negative, right?
Yeah.
But it's a good thing you're on the other line and can take a call and walk people through how to deal with those curveballs as they come at you, not just in life, but like specifically planning for retirement. It's literally what you do.
Yeah, and planning for retirement is planning for the curveballs. It's planning for the unexpected. That's why we have a plan. If life was all cupcakes, rainbows, and unicorns and predictable, and we had the crystal ball, we wouldn't be here, Kinch.
It broke, actually. We've got it in storage. We just can't get anybody to fix it.
Avery broke it. Yeah. But you're right. There is a parallel there. And, some of the curveballs that we face in retirement are curveballs that are easy to hit out of the park, make contact, and some curveballs are can be life changing. As far as how a plan is implemented, and it's a great reminder that a plan. Sarah and I had a plan, right? We planned on one kid. Now we have a curveball, brand new plan, right? Back to the drawing board. And a lot of folks that are nearing retirement, heck, even already in retirement, realize sometimes more often than just once that a plan needs to be revised, right? A plan needs to be fluid. We need to plan for some of the bigger curveballs that life can throw our way, but we also need to be able to be nimble and shift gears when necessary, right?
I remember an analogy that was shared with me by an old hitting coach. It's like, curveballs aren't a problem if you practice hitting the curveball, right? Because then you've seen it. You've seen the different arm slots and speeds, and you've worked on it time and time again. If you hit 800 curveballs in the batting cage and you go out there and see one in a game, you know what to do with it because you've seen it before. You have the benefit of seeing, not just like when you're sitting down with a couple, not only do you see maybe what might be happening, what curveball might be headed for them, but you have all of this decade plus of experience.
Yeah.
And then our firm has more, almost 50 years experience like combined.
Yeah.
So we have all of these situations, all of these curveballs, and they're all different speeds, all different arm slots, all different delivery, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we really, I really am amazed when you guys sit down and talk about a plan and you're like, but what about this? But what about this? And some of that stuff is just, you don't know until it's there. But if you've put in the practice reps, you're prepared.
Yeah, I think that's a really good analogy, Kinch. A response that I get a lot from folks, both clients and folks that we meet with, for the first time, a comment that I receive often is, we're really, our eyes have been opened, and thank you for explaining this in a way that we can understand. And I think that is a testament to not just my experience, but the experience of the firm, right? We do this day in and day out. We see, although curveballs are different speeds, different exit velocity, and all of those different variables, we see a lot of the same curveballs, but we see those every day. Mr. and Mrs. Smith are going to see that once. Right. So we see it coming. It's obvious to us, but it's not necessarily obvious to them. And I think that is, something that gets overlooked and we don't talk enough about. I take a lot of pride in my ability to walk somebody through a plan, for the next 30 years that can be overwhelming and it can be complicated, but I take a lot of pride in doing that in a way that is easy to understand and digest.
I love these sports analogies because it's so much in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But it's the difference of, you walk up to a major league ballpark and you have a decision. You can step into the batter's box and try and hit the curveball yourself at your first at bat, or you can tag team in a professional hitter who lives it and breathes and eats at the ballpark and has been there for 10 plus years, and all they do is hit home runs, right?
Every day.
And so to me, it's a no-brainer, right? Like, and I fancy myself an athletic guy, and I'm like, maybe I could hit one. I would rather tag in an expert who that's literally what they do for a living. And that's you and our team. So talking about these curveballs, what are some of the biggest curveballs that you think throw people off course for their retirement planning? Because, we get people in here that maybe are more like engineer minded, and they have a binder and everything's like, everything's planned out, and because I imagine, because I have some engineer friends, they struggle with things that aren't in the plan.
Yep. I'm going to give you two. One is a curveball that we talk about on the daily, Kinch, and the curveball is tax. Right? For years, if in decades, right? It has been ingrained in society. Save to your 401k, save money, defer tax. Get a tax deduction. Pay your taxes later, pay your taxes later. And that is great in an environment when taxes are expected to go down. Well, and for decades, that was the case. Fast forward to today, we are in an environment where taxes are going up. Not expected a decade ago or 2 decades ago or 30 years ago. So that's the curveball, right? For a lot of people that haven't seen this thing coming. And now we are in a position where, I meet with folks on a daily basis where they've got all of their life savings, and they've never paid tax on that money. Taxes are going up. That's the curveball. So now they're going to start relying upon this money and paying more tax than they, should be, right? Than necessary. So it's become a scenario where, in order to hit the curveball, we need to figure out a way to transition funds before taxes go up, right?
Right. The good news about this particular curveball is we know when it's coming. That if nothing changes, we know that the sunset provision in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act kicks in, and you know right where that ball's going to be, and more importantly, when it's going to be there.
It's in the slot. All we got to do is hit it.
It's there.
It's in the slot. The other curveball that I would throw out there, and this has been something that has kind of developed in the last 10 years or so, Kinch, is the idea of taking a lump sum pension versus a monthly pension payment. A lot has changed in our world, and a lot has changed for a lot of companies out there that offer pensions. And because we're living longer, these companies are on the hook for a longer period of time, and they've made it more and more appealing to take the lump sum versus the monthly option. The monthly option is great. It's mailbox money. It's guaranteed, shows up every month for the rest of my life. But when we start applying some math to this, because this is all about math and science, right? And the numbers don't lie, Kinch. It has made more and more sense, more and more often, to take that lump sum versus the monthly pension, right? So that has been a curveball that we've seen more and more here in the last decade or so.
Absolutely, and we want to slide a disclosure in here. Everybody's financial situation is different.
Yes.
No two pensions are built the same. This is not meant to be construed as any sort of financial advice. We're just talking really high level and like what could potentially happen. But you and I both know, we sit in these workshops, we meet people all the time. Pensions are getting less and less. I saw a movie not that long ago that we sponsored down in Bloomington, The Baby Boomer Dilemma. A really interesting take on how employers no longer want to be responsible for the employee after they separate their employment, and just how everybody's moved away from pensions. And you think about the companies that still have pensions and how they're trying to phase them out and get out of it. They just want to shift the burden. That just puts even more of a burden on the individual, and they have to be either honed in themselves on everything that's going on. But the reality is they're still working, or they're dealing with, family life, everything that happens in the day to day. They don't have time to be experts in the field, Joe.
No, and that's probably the biggest reason, right? Yeah, they don't have time, or they don't have the expertise, or they just don't want to. I bring up the pension example, Kinch, because I personally, from a prior life, had a pension, have a pension, and the lump sum option was never offered until this year. By this company. So I received a notice, hey, we're implementing this. Do you want it or not? And it's been more and more companies are absolutely trying to get off the hook.
Right.
Off the hook.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's on us.
And the great news about being experts in the field is we run those numbers all the time, and it's not necessarily a cut and dry answer, right? Sometimes there's indices that we have to look at and different projections and all that fun stuff. A while ago when the lottery was at the highest point it had been in whatever so long, it was fun to run those numbers. There was a debate inside the operations team about, if you win the lottery, do you take the payout over the
20
30
years?
Yeah, do you take the annuitized version, or do you take the lump sum?
It's a lump sum, by the way.
And guess, all the ops guys were debating. It was up to the marketing guy to actually run the numbers.
Yes, it's the lump sum, by the way.
But that was fun. But that's kind of, eye-opening to see, right? And just to get a different perspective on it.
Yeah, it's not cookie cutter, Kinch. You're right. Just to drive that point home, right? You're going to appreciate this. Situations are situational.
Bingo.
Everybody's different, but it's been amazing over the last decade. When I think back more and more often, it's something that really requires some attention and consideration. So.
Well, do you know a guy? Do you know a guy that can help with that?
I know a guy that can help with that with some experience. I'm biased, but I think he's one of the best in the business, if not the best.
Hey, I'm biased too. Our man John Savarino is a kid.
Oh, that guy. One of the best.
I mean,
one of the best.
Also Connor, also Zach, and also yourself, all in that category. Bottom line, you guys wouldn't be here if you weren't the best. So I appreciate the different perspectives that you all bring to the table. If you want to have a conversation with my man Joe or any of the other advisors about your pension or about any curveball that you think might be affecting your retirement plan, either it's at the plate or it's coming, feel free to give us a call and we'll make sure to get somebody on the line who can talk you through that. That's 815-918-4727. That'll do it for today's episode. Until next time, keep digging in.
This was Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.